to make it clear.
Well, I did not make the comment.
Well, it's not about taking away rights. It is about giving opportunity.
Good, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Citizen A, where we wrap the week's current affairs with a panel of bloggers and opinion shapers. Joining me tonight, he is an Indigenous rights blogger and Green Party candidate who performed strongly in the Ikaroa-Rafferty by-election, Marama Davidson, and he is the leader of the Conservative Party, the ever-satirical Colin Craig. Welcome to you both. Coming up tonight, Issue 1. What does the Chorus, Sky City and Rio Tinto deals tell us about the nature of the business environment in New Zealand? Issue 2. John Key claims Cunliffe will take Labour to the far left. Does John know what the words far and left mean? And Issue 3 tonight, how are private military charter schools the solution to our underperforming education stats? Plus, we'll end the show on a final word. But let's kick things off tonight with Issue 1. A new campaign to axe the tax from the Chorus subsidy was launched by everyone's favourite master of the Sith, Matthew Hooton. But what does it say about the state of doing business in New Zealand when the level of crony capitalism is so high? Colin, if you want government contracts, it seems you need to be a minister's Facebook friend. MediaWorks, Rio Tinto, Chorus, Warner Brothers, Sky City. What happens when business don't feel it's a meritocracy?
Well, first of all, we are talking about John Key. I think it says more about the style of government and leadership than it does about business. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's cup of tea, John Key. If you want a good deal, have a backroom conversation, take along a big pot of tea, you're likely to do well. I think business needs to operate in a competitive environment. It's one of the safeguards. The moment you have a tender process where everyone else drops away, the moment you've got the Commerce Commission raising issues to take the Chorus thing.
That's right.
You've got the Auditor General on the Sky City deal saying, well, this wasn't a good process.
Yeah.
You've got Treasury on the 30 million to Rio Tinto saying, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
I think the moment all of them are screaming, you've got to think something's not going right. And we know we're not getting the best deal.
Key likes to think of himself as a deal maker. He goes
And
out,
he is.
gets
That's his
things
history,
done.
right?
And he gets things done. He's going to say, look, this is just the process I go through. It ticks all the boxes. Nothing's illegal. What's your problem?
I think the problem with it is, and he should know this, you need competitive processes. You need open tender process to ensure you get the best deal. I mean, I run tenders through my business interests every day of the week. If you don't get enough people into tender process, you go back, you rework the framework to ensure competition, to ensure you can say this was the best price, the best deal, the best operator. Now, we're not getting that basic business practice.
New Zealand's a very small place. You know this. You do business in New Zealand. People are going to know people. People are going to be friends of people. People are going to be mates of people. How do you stop that process becoming cronyism?
Well, look, it's the old thing, isn't it? Conflict of interest. If you're making a decision, but you know somebody in the room, you say, I've got a conflict of interest, and leave the room. It has to be at arm's length. It has to be genuinely the best deal for the taxpayer for the dollars that we have. And giving away $30 million against Treasury advice, running processes where someone's got inside knowledge, so that we can do the best deal on a casino for you, on a conference centre rather, or we're all putting in a tender, all one of us, to get. Those are not good business practice, not good for our country.
Marama, it seems current legislation is written for BFFs rather than for public good or the betterment of the economy. When does this start hurting politically?
So, more corporate welfare is what we have been seeing with Chorus, Sky City and Rio Tinto, but unfortunately the drive to lead our nation to believe that that's what is going to uphold our economic prosperity is quite sickening. So I think that people are starting to realise that that is not the economic salvation of our economy, to be handing out and bailing out corporations, when also, we can question where are those profits going to go, what are the international interests that are being held by those companies. But the bigger thing for me here is we can create in the media, we whip up narratives in a frenzy around, say, a young mum on a benefit who might also want to buy a packet of cigarettes and have a beer.
Apparently the worst thing in the world.
Exactly. So we get all up in arms around a person receiving that sort of welfare while pleading poverty. But here we've got these companies who projected and posted some big profits, I believe, but that's not enough for them. They still want more, and they still want more handouts. So I'm also sickened by the juxtaposition, the way in which we hold our community, our everyday people, as opposed to this corporate welfare and greedy corporations.
Why do you think it is that punters will get really angry about beneficiaries? Really up, just
because
viscerally,
as
but won't get angry about corporates?
As Chomsky says, you instigate fear. You build up fear against crime. You build up fear against people on benefits, and that's how you control your society. So this is a proactive approach. Let me say that this is not a by the way sort of thing. The national government are intentionally instigating fear against those groups because that is how they can try and control the people.
Colin, when is corporate welfare good and when is it bad? Because there are there not some arguments to say, well, look, you know, The Hobbit, sure, it wasn't a particularly good movie, but it was great for our perception, tourism-wise, and Team New Zealand, $36 million for them. Some people are going to say, billionaires game, why can't they pay for it themselves? But then there's the argument, well, it provides a platform for our industries to be put on the global stage. So when is it good, when is it bad?
Well, I think there's two things to say here. The first one is, I think it's dangerous to pick the good bads. If you're going to go out there and you're going to have some sort of incentivisation for New Zealand businesses, sports teams to do well, fine, but make sure that that's open for all people to participate, because otherwise cronyism's automatic. If you can pick and choose, of course you're going to pick the people you know. That's the danger of it. So first of all, if you're going to have that approach and make that an across-the-board thing. Secondly, and I think other countries have shown us how to do this, you don't give it away. You make it a loan. You make it something where this is a two-way street. Yeah, we're backing you, but in return that money comes back, or that investment comes back. Taiwan do fantastically well with their business innovation. The government puts tons of money into it, but it's a loan, and they make a 6% return off that loan book. There's a way to do this that's smart, that's ethical, and gives you great results, and actually it benefits every taxpayer who's got money in the pot because they're getting money back for it. And that's the sort of thinking we need.
Marama, government will claim these deals create jobs. So shouldn't we be more grateful?
So 30 years of neoliberal economics, which this is part of, have seen equality rise, and we have got the gaps. The gap has increased even more and more. And so our lovely Rogernomics didn't work out. And we've had 30 years of this lesson alone in Aotearoa, let alone around the world. We've seen that. So clearly something is grotesque and has not worked with this type of approach. And also, regardless of good or bad, the processes are shady. There are cover-ups. The Sky City deal
is pretty smelly, isn't it?
There was no evidence that John Key even considered any of the social outcomes when that deal was being made. So regardless of good or bad welfare, the processes, we demand transparency and accountability at lower levels in communities. We've seen organisations lose their funding contracts for one little slip-up. So at the higher level, we would expect the same thing. Through all three of these deals, we have not seen clear, transparent processes.
Just a quick question on that to both of you. Stephen Joyce admitted in Parliament that he didn't actually read all the papers in the Sky City deal. Does that concern you?
It really concerns me, the Sky City deal, the Chorus deal. And, you know, is it a lie? Is it a cover-up? The whole truth? Some of the truth? Those things are what New Zealanders should be really concerned about.
Stephen Joyce didn't read all the papers. Now you're not going to read everything in deals?
Given the scale of the deal, he should have. You've got to, okay, look, not everybody's going to read every piece of paper, but those who are key and responsible for these deals should. I think we all understand that, because the buck's going to stop with them. And so I think you've got to say, yeah, should have done so.
Final question to both of you on this one. In your opinion, what's the worst corporate welfare that we've seen from under this government?
Oh, goodness.
Because there's a lot.
I tell you what, I don't know if you'd call it corporate welfare, but I do not like the laws that are constantly being made to favour the especially international greedy corporations who want to destroy our pristine environment here in Aotearoa. That to me is a real cock-up.
Yeah, I actually have to agree that it's where you've got foreign corporate interests and their pockets get lined. I mean, giving $30 million against Treasury advice is pretty bad, but hey, we've let the Chinese come in and buy up, you know, $1 billion worth of land. Oh boy, that's got to be pretty high up there.
Thank you, panel. Moving on with our second issue tonight. David Cunliffe won the Labour leadership by a landslide. in the weekend, and John Key immediately started painting Labour under Cunliffe as far left, which begs the question, does John Key understand the words far and left? Marama, if workers' rights, jobs and strong social services are far left, if that's far left, what's tax cuts for the rich and flogging off public assets to the wealthy?
This is exactly the thing. I'm a little bit annoyed with the left and right thing. I think we should just be talking about a better future for New Zealanders. And that's why you won't often see me call myself a person of the left, a political left person. I'll call myself a Māori woman with a kaupapa Māori approach to all politics. So I think we need to get away from the whole left and right thing, where we can start to talk more about a fairer New Zealand that provides for all of our people, that encourages all of us to care about our neighbours instead of the individual sort of approach that this government is trying to make us believe is what we are. But I don't think we are that. Me Tiria Tude had a fantastic speech at the Public Health Association conference this week. And I'm not even going to apologise that I'll regurgitate as much of it as I can today, because it really talked about, okay, what are New Zealanders concerned with? We are concerned with poverty, we are concerned with inequality, and I think that those are the issues that we can be talking about regardless of where we are on the political sphere.
Is Key centrist?
Please don't ask me to label him, because I'll be kicked out.
Colin, up until now,
Yeah.
he has managed to pass off policy that has seen inequality leap in the last 5 years by excluding ideology from the debate. Does now focusing on it suggest the confidence from Key that his agenda isn't seen as hard right?
No, I think he knows exactly what the words far left mean politically.
Yep.
He knows that if he gets the far left label on Labour, where does that leave the Greens and Mana? And he's got the next election. We'll see a lot more of this rhetoric. That's my prediction.
Yep.
Going into the election next year, he'll be picking up some of the numbers that don't add up on the far left, and he'll be throwing those in, he'll be lumping it all together, and he'll be creating a scary picture. That's the campaign from National.
Yep.
And I'm quite happy to say that I predict that that's the way they'll go. So I think this is a beginning of how they are now going to box Labour. They did differently with Shearer, who was very moderate. They basically said, well, he's bumbling and incompetent, going nowhere. But I think what we're now going to see is National painting Labour as far left. I think he knows what those words mean politically.
By bringing ideology into it, though, it then opens his own record, does it not, up to scrutiny? Well, how can you be centrist if...
I guess it will, but at the end of the day, I think he knows the game that he's playing. I think
Red's under the bed still scared?
Look, it does. I think far left, if he makes everybody think that, you know, it's all going to be about massively increased taxes and, you know, certain sectors of society are suddenly going to get everything and everyone else will miss out, then he's done his job, he wins the next election.
So Cunliffe needs to bash Marama's mates and Greens. Is that what he needs to do?
Well, I do think you need to see daylight between parties to differentiate. I mean, that's why we pick up so many National voters now, is that people are seeing daylight between us and National, and you need that differentiation, and I would suggest that it's just as important for Labour.
So Marama, what does Cunliffe need to do now? I mean, all the pundits are saying attack the Greens, attack the Greens, attack the Greens.
He can't live without us.
Yes.
He needs us. And so the more that we can talk about the social cohesion that Me Tiria has been leading for many years now, the more that we can talk about creating a nation where we protect each other, we protect our environment, we create stronger families and stronger communities, is I think where Cunliffe can understand that yes, he needs us, and we can back the ideology. I agree with what Colin is saying about those labels that are going to be part of the attack, but I think that we're stronger than that and can get through to the, more New Zealanders about the real needs and wants of all of us.
So do you think the Greens and Labour can actually start working together? Now, we know that there's a big pretense and there's a big front,
we have worked together. We have worked together previously, and the Greens have solid foundations and visions, solid foundations and visions for what we want to achieve for our nation, and wherever anyone, not just Labour, as we've shown in the past, we will work with anyone who wants to help us achieve that through policies and through legislation.
Has that 15% the Greens have been on, is that because Shearer has been a very, very awful leader for 20 months?
Yeah.
Or is it because you're on your way to 20%?
Look, we also saw a massive increase in Māori support for the Green Party recently. And, you know, the Ikaro Rāwhiti, the fact that we stood at all may have had something to do with that. I'd like to believe that we are nipping from all corners of the political parties. There was some feedback during the by-election that suggested that there were even a couple of previous national supporters, actually more than a couple, who were starting to think, Greens are looking good, so we'll take that as well.
So with the Green and the Labour Party perhaps sitting down and not fighting but trying to work together, do you think the Greens are ready to actually start working together? Because some would suggest that perhaps the Greens running in East Christchurch is a little bit of pushy-shoving.
I think the Greens have shown themselves to be one of the most cooperative parties in all of government for many years now, and we've managed to stay away from a lot of the mudslinging, so take that.
Colin, pundits are saying that Cunliffe will need to move back to the right, but when the unions and the membership have given him such an overwhelming amount of support, doesn't he have a mandate and a responsibility to actually implement that mandate?
Well, look, I think it's going to be a very close next election. It's going to come down to minor parties. I think everyone already understands that. Good for us, of course.
Well, you might be the only mates that John Key has after
well, it may
the
be, because we're not prepared to rule anybody out working with anybody. So that leaves us as an option.
I think a whole bunch of other people are prepared to rule out working with you.
Well, maybe. They just need to grow up, frankly. Look, at the end of the day, it's going to be a very close next election. And this could be won in small degrees. And look, I think John Key knows what he's doing. When he makes a comment like, well, Cunliffe's going to the far left, it doesn't matter whether actually this is factually true or not. It doesn't matter whether Labour revise all their policy. I don't think they are they? But at the end of the day, he knows it's about perception. And he is good at this. Anyone who thinks he's not good at this just needs to open their eyes and grow up. Look at what's happened in this country. And he's still very popular. And he's still got the support and the numbers. David Shearer found him a tough nut to crack. I think Cunliffe's got a hard task ahead of him.
Final question of both of you. Who will be demoted in the caucus reshuffle in Labour? Who's going to get promoted? Your thoughts, your picks?
No, I'd have no picks, sorry.
No, and
I wouldn't either, because I think that's, you know, it's their business and they're going to decide.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to call.
Who do you think, do you think Shane Jones deserves to be on the front bench?
Oh!
We'll get to you in a second.
Here's my opinion. Here's my opinion for the day. I do not believe that any politician who has taken taxpayers' funds, great or small, and misused it, should even be in Parliament.
Nick Smith?
I've made mistakes.
Okay. Your call on Shane Jones? So that was, you don't want him on the front bench.
He's on my final word. I don't want him on the front bench.
Okay, we'll get to that.
He's got too many supporters here, has he?
Thank you, panel. Moving on with issue 3 tonight. Charter schools have been held up as the solution to New Zealand's educational woes by this government. And the first 5 charter schools were announced this week. So how exactly are schools that are exempt from the Official Information Act with unregistered teachers that teach creationism and train for the military going to help New Zealand's educational underachievements? Colin, let's be honest.
I always am, Bomber. I always am. I don't know why you even need to start.
This isn't about fixing the educational underachievement. This is about creating a less expensive teacher pool to drag down state costs to register teachers, isn't it?
Okay. Will it reduce costs? I think minorly so, yes it will. But the reality is, and look, 5 choices of organisations, very clever choices. These are not new ventures at all, are they? I mean, they've all got successful track records. So they've been very smart. They've picked ones that work. I know the 3 Auckland ones. The Vanguard Training School, which is in Albany, of course, just along the road from me. These organisations have got track history. They're incredibly successful already. It's a no-brainer that the 6-year contracts are going to be successful because they've picked already winners. They've all been assessed by NZQA or ERO or both at some point, and they've been very successful. So are these going to work? Yes, they are. Are they a fantastic solution for some students? Yes, they are. And I'm quite happy that we're going down a route that enables that option, that choice of students and parents.
You don't see this as an ideological?
I think it could become that, but it doesn't need to be. It can be about those students, about them succeeding. These were already operating without the Partnership Schools framework. What's happened now is we've just enabled them to grow a little larger as organisations.
With state funding.
With state funding. Remember that some of them were getting state funding anyway. Like a lot of the kids referred for the military training school are coming out of the courts and they can't operate in normal school environments. They're dangerous to peers and in some cases to teachers.
So let's teach them how to be paramilitary.
Basically, yeah, let's give them a discipline framework for their aggression, and that's not a bad thing. It's working for them. 85%
how many
success.
semi-automatics plus, yeah. So when Dr. Gluckman, for example, came out and he was exceptionally critical last week of state agencies, particularly education, using ideology and not empirical evidence, and he was pointing at the charter schools.
Yeah.
You don't think that someone of that intellectual rigour coming forward and saying, I'm really concerned about this, and that you're not scientifically deciding where the resources should go, but you're doing it on ideology, you don't think that his concerns should bear out?
I think there's a danger on both sides here to be ideological. I mean, I've heard people blanket, and the Greens and Labour are both in this camp, say, look, we're going to shut these things down. These organisations are already highly successful. They are meeting a need, and it's just blindness and absolute fixed-mindedness to close down something that works. I mean, this is a report that I've got here. It was done the end of last year by Infometrics. It says that $1 spent in these intervention type things, which the military training is worth $7.15 in terms of saved money. Now, that's a smart investment. I don't think this should be ideological on either side. It should be about the kids and best outcome, though. That's what we need to focus on, and they've picked winners, and good on them for doing it.
Marama, Māori and Pacific educational underachievement are used to justify charter schools. How is this the solution?
Massey University investigated the charter schools policy. They did a report and an analysis of our experiences and overseas, and there was nothing in there to suggest that the inequalities, I'm talking about the stuff that isn't working, has a better result with charter schools. And not only that, I think we do need to consider the ideology, actually. I think we do need to remember that this is about privatising a state responsibility towards education, and that it is using our children and their lives as the guinea pigs for it.
Because that's the fear here, isn't
I think that is dangerous, that we forget that that is the ideology. And in terms of success, Catherine Isaac, who is essentially the board for the private charter schools arrangement, was, publicly lauding high calibre for the applications, but in the board memo, she was writing about the low scores for all of these applications that came through. So again, transparency and process is at question here. And hello, the minister shut down Moerewa School in Northland and was hugely denigrating towards the amazing efforts of that community, who don't just take the creme de la creme of students, they take the children from their community, and we're doing great things. They shut that school down because it was working, and because it was working in a way that would completely floor the ideology of charter schools, so they shut it down.
Well, that's a school that should qualify as a partnership school. I agree. I thought it should have stayed open as well. You've got to realise that some schools deal with the most difficult students.
Of course, of course.
And a minor achievement is a big deal for them.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to have a broader framework when it comes to education.
Question to both of you: how does teaching creationism prepare students for a scientific future? Come on, this is silly.
I don't even know if these schools are.
Well, they are.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right, okay, you may know more than me. I didn't think they did teach that with the military one.
I'm not sure about the military one. I know that one. A couple of the others are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, at the end of the day, I suppose you've got to teach people worldviews. When I went to a public school, it taught what the alternative perspectives were, and I thought that was perfectly reasonable, actually.
Do you think in a scientific future that we should be teaching children that effectively God snapped his finger and it's all there?
I think that is where, and I've said it before, I think that is where we give equal earing to the community's worldviews and make sure that what we are teaching in that respect is in partnership with discussion with the parents, because kura kaupapa teach about our creation stories and our whakapapa pertaining to Papa Tuanuku and Rangi and all of our gods.
Do they teach it in science class?
No, that's part of the sort of, well, they might actually, but it's also part of, it runs through the curriculum and through the approach. So But that is in collaboration with the community and with the parents' needs. So I'd just be, careful that there is that understanding that we can instill what the parents and the community require. It's where it isn't reflective of the diversity of our nation that it is a worry.
What happens when the parents in the community are wrong?
Exactly. Oh, wrong?
As in they're wrong.
How
as in
can-
they've got some crazy idea about the way they
Yeah,
work.
well,
you
that's
gonna
where
sit
we
as the
can.
judge,
That's
though?
where we
But
can.
it's public funding, isn't
That's
it?
where
It's
Well,
public
it is
intersectionality.
public
That's where
money.
intersectionality
Yep.
and human rights can help that process. So what is wrong and what is right? We can have clear frameworks around dignity towards other people.
Would you want money going to exclusive Brethren church schools, for example?
So if they have principles that I think are a breach of human rights, are a breach of those broader human rights principles,
Should public
no,
money
I
go to
wouldn't.
that?
No,
Should
I
public
wouldn't.
money go to that?
Well, I don't. I think they may already have some integrated type schools anyway. So look, at the end of the day, if they qualify under the framework, then I don't have an issue with broadening this out to other. But these are getting assessed every 3 months. They've got to perform. If they
But not
want
open to Official Information Act.
No, but
Not
they are open
accountable to the normal-
they've got a 6-year contract, as I understand it, with reviews every 3 months. That's a tough regime. No public school has to get reviewed that often. I know why, because they want this to work and they want to know pretty straight away if there's a problem, because it's going to be political hot potato.
Okay, let's wrap the show. Marama, your final word this week.
Oh, 120 years today for a New Zealand woman leading the world and gaining the vote. So that's fantastic. But it seems that we're still centuries away from true women's political voices being honoured. So we had Willie Jackson labelling Nanaia Mahuta, Lewis Sewall and Wana Maki as sellouts for not supporting Shane Jones in the leadership bid, which got me so hot under the collar. Who on earth has the right to dictate who we have to support? In Shane Jones, I disagree with his economic policies. I certainly disagree with his misogynistic remarks, and I disagree with him wanting dollar over environment. So I wouldn't support him, and I clearly would not deserve to be called a sellout. So down to the male Māori commentators who continue to discredit Māori women in the political atmosphere.
Kia ora. Colin, your final word this week?
Education and creativity, 19 minutes and 29 seconds is the length of Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk on creativity and education. I encourage everyone to Google it, Sir Ken Robinson, TED Talk, creativity. It is the best 19 minutes you'll invest on education in your life. Have a look at it.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Marama. Ladies and gentlemen, to my final word today, brothers and sisters, is Suffrage Day. And on Suffrage Day, let's not pretend that New Zealand gave women the vote. Women fought bloody hard against the system to get it. And even now, 120 years later, their role in society is at best that of a second-class citizen with lower pay and the lion's share of social vulnerability. Respects to the courageous women who came before and those on the front line now who continue to champion human rights. And a moment of reflection for men as to the influence of invisible privilege in our lives and how we can continue to support our mothers and daughters and aunties and sisters to live lives as equally autonomous as our own. If you like tonight's show, please join our Citizen Aid Facebook site and connect with other like-minded citizens, and follow me on my Citizen Bomber Twitter and Facebook page. Thanks for watching, whānau. Good night, Aotearoa.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on